Volkswagen is putting a lot of emphasis on the car that we're reviewing today, the ID.3, so much so that it puts it alongside the Golf and the Beetle in importance. And that means it's thrown the works at the ID.3, an all-new electric powertrain, a bold new look and a technology-focused interior. But do these help it to become a credible alternative to established petrol and diesel rivals? That's what we're here to find out today. The look of the ID.3 is relatively subdued. Yes, you've got the full-length light bar at the front and a prominent Volkswagen badge, but this is a car which plays it under the radar in terms of styling. You've got a contrast black roof and quite distinctive rear badging too. But overall, this is a car which doesn't sell itself as anything out of the ordinary. The interior of the ID.3 is a mixture of the good and the bad, really. It's nice and spacious, and because you've got lack of any conventional transmission, you've got a nice deep cup holder section up here, middle area for your phone, and then a deep cubby bin in the middle which can take loads of stuff. You've also got some additional netting at the front for some extra items. The glove box is also of a nice size, so you've got additional storage there. But then we look at other aspects of the car and things tend to falter a little bit. The main screen, for instance, houses absolutely everything. So as well as your media and navigation, it's also where you will change the heating and ventilation, and that's just not easy on the move. Yes, there are some touch sensitive buttons here, but they're not all that responsive and they can be fiddly to use on the move. The same goes for the light controls, those are touch sensitive, and for the mirrors, those are touch sensitive as well. So nothing feels like you're getting a really good press on it. The screen itself isn't too bad, though it can be a little bit laggy when you first start the car up. And then you've got this selector here, which is similar to the one that we saw on the i3 from BMW, which allows you to control your gears on the right-hand side. But again, if you're trying to do a short manoeuvre, that can be a little bit tricky. Overall, it's a bit of a mixed bag. We'd like it to be a little bit brighter, but in terms of spaciousness, which is one of these key areas where a car like this needs to focus, it does do well. Things are pretty good in the back of the ID.3. You've got plenty of legroom, the seat is in my position, and there's a decent amount of headroom too, though taller passengers are likely going to feel a little bit cramped. There's space for three too, and the lack of transmission tunnel means that the person sat in the middle isn't going to feel too squidged in either. You've also got some helpful pockets at the top for your phones or devices, and a larger one at the bottom for a book or a laptop. And then on the side, deep door bins, which probably will just take a water bottle. In the middle, there's a armrest with two decent sized cup holders, and then in terms of connectivity, you've got two USB-C plug sockets down in the middle. At 385 litres, the boot in the ID.3 is actually 5 litres larger than the one that you'll find in the Golf, and it's cleverly packaged too. You've got a nice split design so that you can keep your cables out of sight and leave the top area free for all of your luggage or shopping. And you can of course extend the boot by folding those seats, and in the middle there's a ski hatch which is easier for loading longer items into there. Overall, a really nicely sized boot. This particular ID.3 is a Pro Performance model, and it sits pretty much at the top of the range. You get a 150 kilowatt electric motor linked up to a 58 kilowatt hour battery, and together you should get 260 miles of range. Now that's what Volkswagen claims, so let's call it around 230. So it's got more than enough battery space for daily drives or even long distance commutes. When it comes to performance, 0 to 60 comes in 7.3 seconds, and flat out it'll do 99 miles an hour, so just shy of 100 miles an hour. That performance is really quite impressive too. It feels far quicker than the numbers suggest, in fact. And realistically, if you haven't driven an electric car yet, I would really urge you to go and try one, because the difference in performance, even on what is a rather everyday electric car like this one, against a conventional petrol or diesel, is quite stark, to be honest with you. You have that instant torque, which means that you can nip out of junctions, or you can really fire yourself away from the lights, should you want to, of course. Now the ID.3 does have an interesting quirk in that it's rear wheel drive, and that might lead you to think that it's going to be some sort of electric tyre shredder, but it's not really. There's no real way of disengaging the traction control, and to be honest with you, when you're driving it every day, you struggle to realistically find out that it's rear wheel drive. You get a small suggestion of its rear wheel drive layout, but it's no more than that realistically. Volkswagen has given the steering of the ID.3 a surprising amount of weight actually, and it gives it quite a sporty, solid feel. Volkswagen has given the steering of the ID.3 actually quite a lot of weight, so it feels rather solid and composed on the road, but you do feel the extra weight of those batteries over a normal petrol or diesel car. It's not so noticeable at lower speeds in fact, but as you start to gain speed, the car just suffers a bit from a head toss, a little bit of a wiggle. It can't seem to entirely manage that weight when you're going a little bit quicker. Certainly, it's not going to impact on your daily driving, and you aren't really going to notice it when you're just pootling around, but should you want to push a little bit harder, it's something that will flag up. When it comes to visibility, the ID.3 isn't too bad. You've got a nice large rear screen, and the windscreen is really wide too. The only thing impeding that are these split pillars, which have been divided up to allow you to see through them, but they're still quite bulky and they still get in the way when you're coming up to a roundabout. Now, we need, of course, to talk about charging, because charging is one of the most crucial aspects of EV ownership. The ID.3, this Pro Performance model, will take around 9.5 hours to fully charge. So that's from 0 to 100% via a 7.2 kilowatt home charger. So that's if you're at home. Let's be honest, it's not going to be all that often that you're charging it from 0 to 100% when you get back home. So 9.5 hours really is that kind of ceiling charge time. However, because the ID.3 can accept a charge of up to 100 kilowatts, so that's quite a rapid charge, you could do a 0 to 80% fill up in around 30 minutes. That's of course if you find one of those 100 kilowatt chargers. But realistically, even a pretty standard 50 kilowatt is going to do the job very quickly. But of course, the benefit of this car is that you've got 230 odd miles of range, and there aren't going to be many instances when you need to do a journey that long. Can you think of the last time that you did a journey of over 200 miles in a single hit? All right, for long distance drivers, for people who are doing trips up and down the country every day, an electric car still isn't going to fit the bill. There's no argument there. But for the average driver, this has more than enough range. Now, as well as your conventional drive mode, you have B, which puts the car into its most aggressive regenerative setting. And that means that when you lift off the accelerator pedal, you're getting a good degree of regen from the brakes, and that's helping to top up the batteries. It's not the same as in cars like the Nissan Leaf, which has its famous one-pedal driving system. In the ID.3, if you let off, it won't bring you to a full stop. At the very end, you are going to have to touch the brakes to stop the car. But you can drive it day to day without bothering the brakes too much. It's actually quite a relaxing way to drive, and it certainly does simplify the whole process of driving a little bit further. Also, the ID.3 isn't too large, so you don't have to worry about fitting it onto the UK's roads. Now, that might sound a little bit strange, but quite a lot of electric cars that we've driven recently have been big, heavy SUVs. So to have one that's small and relatively compact is quite pleasant, really. Of course, another added bonus of EV driving is that it's nice and quiet. You can relax and you can enjoy the radio, and you don't have to worry too much about the engine or the exhaust impeding on your otherwise quiet cabin. There's not too much road noise, there's a small amount of wind noise, but really these issues are elevated because the powertrain is so quiet. It's something to bear in mind if you are looking at going for an electric car, that you are more likely to just hear these other aspects of driving that you might not usually notice in an internal combustion engine car. I wouldn't say that the driving experience that you get from the ID.3 is a truly exciting one, but it's more just like a regular car. It's designed to fit in where your usual petrol or diesel car would be. And I think that's going to be quite crucial to the adoption of electric vehicles, because they don't need to be different, they don't need to be flamboyant, they just need to be equivalent to those petrol and diesel cars that we've become so used to. This car will easily fit into your life, particularly given its long range, and that's something that is really important when we need to make this switch to EVs that is being pressed upon us, really. This Volkswagen ID.3 really does feel like a genuine alternative to a conventional petrol or diesel car. This one in particular, with its longer range and bigger battery, feels like it would slip into most people's lives without any fuss. And that's what we want from an EV. We want a car that really does replace that experience that we've become so used to. Quicker charging speeds mean you aren't going to worry about spending too much time at the plug either. And then when you tie that together with its practical body style and spacious boot, you've got a car that really will fit the bill for most people. And that's why it's well worth checking out if you are thinking of making the switch to an EV. Thank you for watching this Motors.co.uk new car review. Now, if you'd like to watch some other videos of some of the ID.3's key rivals, then follow the links coming up next. And while you're here, please give us a like, leave us a comment below to tell us what you think of the ID.3, and remember to subscribe to the Motors.co.uk YouTube channel, hitting that bell icon so you're notified each time we upload a new video.